Number one, choose wisely at all three levels. So we look at a return team as having three levels. The first level is your 4 or 5 who are across the front line. Be sure that those guys are smart, that they are tough, that they move well, and that they have some sort of ball skills to be able to handle the ball. Many, many years ago, the default used to be to put an offensive line, literally in many instances, the starting offensive line up there. On most teams, those are not your 5 most athletic ball handlers up in space, and that's where many teams took advantage of it with onside kicks. Be sure that you have 4 or 5 players up front, depending on your return scheme, that you have the 4 or 5 players up front that you are confident can run in space, can block in space, but can handle the football if it comes dribbling their way. At the second level, be sure that that combination of second level players, any player who's not on the first line or is a deep returner, we consider second level players. They need to share a set of characteristics as well. One, they need to be tough and physical. They're going to have to block in space with guys who have a 35-yard head start. So there takes some courage in that to be able to block a guy in space, to be able to get in front of him and really get in there and take a half a man and take him in a place he doesn't want to go. Second, the ball could come blooping or dribbling their way, so they have to have some return capabilities. Not necessarily to return the ball for a touchdown, but they should be able to safely field the ball and secure the ball without losing it. They must also know that once they secure the ball, there's a win. If they're a second or third line guy that's not in that third overall deep level, you've already gained yards when they field the ball. So it is important for those players to know they don't have to do too much. Take care of the football, get what they can get, and get down. That's really important for your second level players. And then obviously for your third level players. Number one, communication. If you've got 2 returners, those guys need to both know that they've got to communicate one with another so that they don't run into each other. We've had instances where players have almost bumped into each other and forced the ball onto the ground because of a lack of communication. We work extremely hard to try to alleviate those circumstances now and moving forward. If you've got 3 returners, those guys need to also understand that when they're not returning the football, they are blockers and they need to be committed to one another. The last piece, the importance of the ball staying off the ground. And I'm not just talking about fumbles by your players. It is important for a third level or kick returner to understand ball security is huge. Securing the ball in the air is also huge. Once a football hits the ground, it can bounce in many directions. And it breaks down the integrity of a return and the timing. So it is vital to be able to field the ball safely in the air. You must have players that understand how to field the ball safely, how to get into space, and then who possess the courage to run up either into your wedge or behind your man return. So choosing those 3 levels is extremely important. Number 2, be sure that the frontline players understand their primary responsibilities. Their number 1 responsibility is to defend against the onside kick. Yes, they've got to get 15 yards. Yes, they've got to block their responsibility. Their number 1 responsibility is to defend against the onside kick. Number 3, be sure to have versatile second line players. As I discussed, those guys have got to be able to field the ball and block in space. You've got to choose wisely. Players to look for, fullbacks, tight ends, good-sized tailbacks, are players that can possibly play in those positions. Really athletic linebackers who have ball skills can also play there as well. Number 4, ensure that your third line players and your returners keep that ball off the ground at all costs. Whether they field it inbounds in the air or whether they're running with the football, they've got to make sure they take care of the football. They're able to run in traffic without letting the ball go. They can't allow the ball to be out in space because there are players coming from all directions. Even friendly fire can force a fumble of a returner. Number 5, Players must understand that opponents kicking the ball have tendencies. How deep does the opposing team kick the ball? Do they dribble it across the ground? Do they have bloop kicks? Where are they aligning? All of those are things that your players must understand. And then number 6, all 3 levels of the return team must be capable and willing to block. Those are 2 different things. The capability to block is one, the willingness to block is something totally different. Both of those things must exist at all 3 levels of your return game. Number 7, this is really important. Don't overcoach it. Be sure to put some really good players out there, particularly your return guys, that can really get up into your wedge or get behind your man return and create something big. If you don't overcoach it, your players can make you a very good coach. Now, another important tip for number 8, that's right, don't overcoach it. It is important to make sure even your frontline players are good players that are physical and nasty and have a willingness to hit people. Teaching them who to block is one thing, having the willingness is the other. So not overcoaching it just requires you to find good players that are committed to the plan, that want to get your offense to midfield. Number 9, that's right again, don't overcoach it, as well as number 10. I think I've gotten my point across. Put good players out there, have a sound return scheme, and then you can put those players in position to set your offense up for success. Now, let's discuss our return game and some of the things that we like in our kick return. Then we'll talk specifically about our middleman return. Here's some things that we teach our players to remember. These are the tips that we look at as we build out our return team. Number 1, we never want players to clip. They should always block players that they can see. You want to be able to see that player's eyes when you block him. Side blocks, back blocks are never good. Players clip because either they are beat or they're in bad position. So you've got to ensure you practice in such a way that your guys are used to running live down the field and getting into their landmarks. You'll know who your assigned man is before the ball is kicked in our return situation. So those guys can look, catch the number, get the size, see the make and model of the player that they're going to block, and then get to his landmark and block that player in space. Eyeball him, get into position, then block him. The next piece, the front 5 must always be alerted at onside kick. Now, I talked about the alertness. Now we're going to talk about how we coach it. Number 1, you need to make sure in practice you dribble the ball across in unexpected situations to force that front line to be ever vigilant. Number 2, have at least one player on the front line be in charge of reminding the players every single return that there could be a potential onside kick. Ours is typically our center. His job is to talk to his right, to talk to his left, to make sure he talks to the other players so that their hands are ready, they're in a good position, so that if a ball comes dribbling out at them, those guys can do what they're supposed to do, which is field the ball and get down. His job is to make sure before every kick, he explains to those guys to watch the onside. A few other things to remember. Our goal. You should set a goal as a return team. Our goal is to get the ball out beyond the 35-yard line every single time. A player knows if he feels the ball beyond the 35, we're playing with house money. Protect the ball with both hands, run forward, get down as soon as you can or as soon as you hit contact. Next, we'll number the kick coverage team in order for our guys to be able to count them and know who's who. As we count, we number guys from left to right. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Timing is everything. We got to make sure our blocks are made in the proper timing. We never want to be in a situation where we block too early. So our guys are going to take a drop in the return so that they time up their block with the catch and return. We want to make sure the block is such that our guys don't have to hold blocks too long and put them in position where they're inclined to try to hold.